bada bing, bada boom. Stock rods. What's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of MAPTV, where we bring you the behind the scenes of what happens here at the shop. Today, as you can tell, Dalen is gone because he's still doing his self-quarantine thing. So I'm actually joined today by Aric, who's the lead engine machinist here at MAP. And we're gonna kind of dive into a gray area for me, which is like the internals and inner workings of engines. Today, I'm not sure exactly what we all have in store, but I know he's gonna be doing the work and I'm hopefully gonna be doing just the learning. But what are we gonna be diving into today?
So we're gonna prep this for assembly.
Okay.
And we're also gonna take apart a few engines.
Okay, sounds good. And hopefully we can show you guys what happens kind of in between this assembly part and the teardown, because there is normally like quite a few days between this process, right?
It's definitely a process.
So, well, we've got a lot of work to do. I don't want to waste a lot of time talking about it. Let's just dive right in.
Just doing a little prep work before I start assembling this new 4G63 block. A little dirty. Never assume something's clean. This is a brand new block from Mitsubishi. It's the Evo 8 variant of it. So it's what we call a new core 4G63 block, and then this got our stage 2 machine work treatment. So we're just getting everything, just going through and running pretty much a gun cleaning kit through the engine and cleaning out all the oil passages, making sure that there's no rust or fine metal particles from the machining process. And then I'll do the same thing to the crankshaft, and we'll start speccing it out and putting it together. But yeah, like compared to the blocks that you'll see later, it's this one's really clean. You know, it's got the powder coat from the factory, OEM freeze plugs, and then it's got our proprietary balance shaft delete done to it. Stage 2 new core blocks come with a few goodies. You know, we retain the oil squirters. If it's a used core, it'll have, like when we get to this point, it'll have all of the freeze plugs and the other oil plugs, and every dowel on the block gets replaced with a brand new Mitsubishi one. MAP engines do the balance shaft delete a little bit differently, where it's a permanent delete. The customer doesn't even have to worry about deleting anything on the block. I mean, this block alone, you know, once I put a couple more parts into it, will be about $2,000 just the way it sits.
So do we drill out that inside hole then? Or is that already drilled out and threaded?
It's a proprietary drilling and
Okay,
tacking.
cool.
From there, we'll take this, do the old flipperoo. When you're using all brand new parts, sometimes it's just a tight fit.
Yeah.
Which isn't the worst thing.
Right. Yeah, you'd rather have it than sloppy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, like
slap together.
My engine experience, like I can change my head gaskets, and I understand that process, and I do a lot of that stuff myself. I've just never completely tore down an engine and rebuilt it before. I did a lawnmower engine once.
Some of these engines see like 300 horsepower per cylinder though.
Right. A little different than the 5-horse Briggs and Stratton.
H11 material for fasteners and stuff. You really don't want to handle them with your hands. The oils in them kind of like deteriorate the metal over time.
Oh, really?
So if I were to like put a nice solid fingerprint on here and install it, and then take this engine apart 5 years later, I'll have a rusted impression.
Oh, really?
Of my fingerprint.
Huh. How do you recommend people learn?
I would say hit up your local junkyard and
Find like an LS motor or something. And
buy a blown engine
yeah.
and figure out why it blew. To get the bearing to bite down when I torque it in, you want it dry.
That makes sense.
So when I take this cleaner and I'm just gonna do a light wipe down.
Oh dang, yeah.
So you can see.
Yeah, there's actually a significant amount that came off.
Yeah.
And the finish now isn't as shiny like you said.
Yep, because that wet coating is gone.
Right. Now that the washers are on, we're putting the nuts on with the ARP lube on. And then we're gonna do our first torque sequence and measure our bearing clearance compared to what my crankshaft measures. How are we looking?
That's good for me.
Awesome. So guys, now that we're at the point where we'd be ready to put the crank in, we thought it'd be good to actually show you guys some of the process that happens before this. And we'd actually have them go tear down an engine for us and show the beginning of the process. So I don't know, what do you say we go start with that?
Let's go do it.
Right on. All right, you guys, so now that we're at a point where we can kind of put things on hold in there, we're gonna come out here and start to, well, actually Eric's gonna go ahead and start taking apart these engines and we're gonna do some learning.
You're gonna do some learning.
All right.
Glove up, man.
So these are a 2.4 engine, 03 to 05 Mitsubishi Galant. We've been building these engines for a really long time. So I got two in that we're gonna go through the motions of tearing apart and stripping down and inspecting for sending out for our thermal cleaning and blasting process. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is let's zip the balancers off of both of these engines. Give it hell, huh? Yep, make sure it's all the way on. Yeah, just hold on to it. Just hold on tight, huh? Yep. And come down and do this one. Go back, so those can go away. Same box? Yep. I like to save the stuff that we could potentially reuse because there's gonna be some stuff that gets scrapped. Grab pry bar. Big one, small one? Doesn't matter. All right. Okay. And then also grab that hammer. All right. Okay. So now I want you to try to remove this and this. This. Oh, gotcha. All right, I got the next one. Like that, yeah, there you go. All right, yeah. Let's sneak that thing off. That can get scrapped. This one. Cutting the belts. Snip, snip. All right, next up, we want to pop that off. So the spark plug wires are going to fight you a little bit, so you might have to go through and pop those off too. You just got to kind of like finagle it out. Ooh, look at that. Scrap? That's a good one. Yeah, scrap. All right, here comes the fun part. I'm sensing sarcasm. It's not that bad. So you're gonna wanna put your foot here. Yep. And then when you crack them loose, all right. You wanna do outside, outside, inside, work your way in. Okay. It's kind of slick. Huh. Oh, that's pretty cool. These came in a lot of different cars too, so for serviceability, it's really nice. Right. All right, we're cracked on these.
All right, let's go through and do these ones. You can just take them, just unzip them all the way. Don't worry about taking them out. Most people wouldn't put the stock head bolts back in, especially on a boosted application. You know, people are going to be putting a dual cam head onto this block, and ARP is just the way to go when it comes to fasteners. You ready to get your hands dirty?
I thought that's what the gloves are for, right?
Oh yeah. Crack this loose. Like I said, the water pipe's going to be the hardest thing to get around. Yeah, normally what I do is I grab this and I just kind of force it off. So what I want you to do, maybe you should grab this side.
Okay.
It'd be easier. Okay, so we're verified that we have nothing connected to the short block anymore.
I'll let you verify that part.
So,
What, am I picking up this end?
yep. So I want you to grab that side. Oh, we got one thing stuck.
And then where is this going once we pick it up?
Right there.
Strapped?
Yep.
You just
Okay.
pick it up from wherever.
So you lift up, lift up, lift up.
Here we go.
All right, let's just set this one right here. It's a strong one. Really strong head gasket.
I see what was wrong with that one.
All right, so now this is just kind of like a wiggle process. Yeah, gonna get a little bit coolant on you. Oh, almost. There we go. Watch your feet. Fine. The old engine, so some of them will go on, some of them won't. So you want to bottom them out before you crack them loose.
Okay.
Because if you strip them out, it gets kind of tricky to pull this pan. Okay. So normally what I do before we do this is I go around and I make
Just tap them all. I don't know that we got a lot of them that well.
welded on. No time for that. All right, so now go through and crack all those loose. And then once they're all cracked loose, you can zip them off. I'm looking for another engine machinist. We have a live listing right now. It's a pretty mint oil pan, don't you think?
Slightly used.
So you can see right here, these are the factory tapped holes for the balance shaft. So these are just oil plug covers pretty much. They don't really do anything, but it taps in. So right here and right here on the block, there, when we pull the front case off, there's gonna be 2 balance shafts that come with it. So you'll see that in a couple minutes. All right, so now I want you to grab the that flat chisel, and the hammer. Back side of the block, and then 2 spots in the front side. You can go through and crack that loose. Okay, now pull up.
We can just pull it up now. I don't need to go over those guys. Dang.
Okay, so what we want to check for is there's no bearing material being sprayed around. It's a clean pan, nothing in the pickup tube, so that's a good sign. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna move these guys and we're gonna do the pan on this one. You can, yeah, I mean, it's just, you're just fighting a little bit of, so do you see anything abnormal in there?
Is that abnormal?
Honestly, that's probably from something contacting the pan.
Okay.
So with a 2.4 block, they're automatic.
Okay.
So they have an automatic adapter to put a flex plate instead of a flywheel on.
Okay.
So that's your centering sleeve for your flex plate. So in the process, we'll remove that part of the crankshaft as well. But
Okay.
a little bit further down the road, what I want you to do is pry bar in these spots, avoid the crank itself. Okay? Pry bar, and walk this rear main seal plate off. Move away from the dowel. Okay, you can just leave it. Next step, I want you to remove this front lower timing cover. Okay, now that cover should technically move. Okay, throw it away. Same thing on the other one. Save the bolts, throw the tube.
Throw the tube,
Yep.
save the bolts.
So now, what we're gonna do, flip this over, I'm gonna let that drain. This is your oil pump balance shaft.
Okay.
So you can see how like when I turn it, it turns back.
Yeah.
Because there's counterweights built into it. I want you to zip off these two bolts.
All right.
The wheel that's behind that timing gear is the sensing ring that tells the ECU where the crank is at. Then we can take that off and save that. Then next up, we'll take the water pump off. They're all 12 mil bolts. We want to move that out of the way, and then we'll pull that
Whole thing off.
assembly off. So that balance shaft delete that I've told you about,
Yep.
so these are your balance shafts,
Okay.
okay? So I want you to zip this one off. We don't offer an engine with balance shafts in it unless it's the oil pump race shaft. So having that pulley doesn't do us any good.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay,
There you go.
there you go. All right, so now there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts, 12 mils that need to come out.
All right.
And then save those bolts.
All right.
Got them all?
Yep.
So we have the front and rear plates unbolted. It's kind of the same thing. I want you to go in, try to avoid the center. Okay, so
Okay.
like there,
Okay.
and then just do a light pry. It should come very easily.
Okay. This one's really light.
Okay, so just keep going until it breaks loose. There's 2 dowel pins right here. Okay, so
I
you
feel
should,
like I could pull it myself.
yeah,
right
you should
now.
be able to pull it straight. So this balance shaft is gonna come with, the other one is gonna stay in the block. Okay. All right, and you can throw that. So this is the one that's the time bomb. This is the
Oh,
time
sure.
bomb one.
Yeah. You don't want to lose that.
Yep.
Trash.
Yep.
It's all coming full circle now.
Yep. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take the rods out.
Okay.
And then we'll take the girdle off, and then the crank will come off, and then we'll do the freeze plugs and get it ready for a quick wash, and then I'll re-bolt this on, and then we'll send it out to get blasted.
All right.
A big thing that people mess up on at this point is when they take their rods out, their stock rods, the studs will nick the crankshaft, leaving
Okay.
like thread pitch impressions, which we wouldn't deem that acceptable.
No.
So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go through and drop those out. So this will pull out and we can inspect the bearing.
Yeah.
So pull those caps off. All right, so the biggest thing is getting this past the crankshaft, okay?
So that when you spin it, it won't nick it.
Yeah, but it's moving it down past the crank journal is what's important.
Do you want it to drop out like that? Okay.
And what are we doing with the piston? Tossing. There. Oh, one more left tap. One more. Bada bing, bada boom.
Better check the oil. When engines are produced, these girdles are fitted and machined to the block.
Okay.
So if I put this onto that one, the chances of that crank spinning are slim to none. Because they're not machined the same. Yep, just one swift motion, push down.
Oh,
Okay.
see, there it goes.
Do it to that one.
Yeah, that's how it moves.
Okay.
That's all we need.
So you want to inspect the bearings. So these are aluminum bearings versus like race bearings that are steel backed with some copper inlay. So this looks pretty acceptable for that.
Okay.
So we're gonna put this one down there. Just want to make sure the rear main seal isn't on the dowels.
Okay.
And then pretty much you go in, grab it. Normally I pick the front up and let it release off the bearings like that. Pick the front up and then one even motion up. Don't worry about the bearings falling out. So at this point, pretty much disassembled.
Great.
But we're not done yet. Not quite. All right, here comes the fun part.
When you say this is the fun part, I know that does not mean this is going to be fun.
All right. So to take the freeze plugs out, you need some really specialty tools. Just push on this.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right, those can get tossed. Those ones can get tossed. So we're gonna take the engines off the engine stands to get to the back two freeze plugs.
Okay.
And then when they're on the ground, we'll go through and take the knock sensor and the oil pressure sensor off. I go in. Do that. Yep, so that's all we save.
So like what are we able to turn this into again?
So these are being built for in stock, ready to buy, stage 2, 2.4 builds.
Okay.
Yep, so if you were to select a 2.4 build on our website, just click buy order. Compared to a 2-liter, you would be saving a significant amount of money. From here, the blocks are gonna get thermal cleaned and blasted, and then they'll end up looking like these ones that I just got done doing. So all the rust and everything will get blasted off of them, and it's technically a strengthening process because it's shot peening cast iron metal. So the outside of the block becomes extremely rigid as well.
Right.
So this process is mainly to make it look cosmetically appealing. While the shot peening does give a strengthening process to it, it's mainly cosmetic.
Sure.
You know, and baking, so like these engines are gonna get heated up to about 800 degrees.
Sure.
And the oil will literally sweat out of the metal. So if this one's got 150,000 miles on it, I'm gonna extract the oil that's burned into the metal out of it, so that when I remachine it, it is technically a brand new engine.
Right. Start to finish, like how many days does it normally take?
One of these, probably about 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Because
is a lot of that just how long it takes to bake and all that?
Yep, so the prep work takes a long time. The machining, and then you have to make sure that, you know, it's not like I'm only building this engine.
Yeah.
You know, I have 15 of these engines that have already gone through that process. So trying to keep it fluid and keep everybody's cores moving like in a similar time frame.
Yeah.
Right now, busy season, we're about 7 to 8 weeks backed up.
Got it.
During slow season, you know, 2 to 3 weeks. So, but
It's
a lot.
so little.
So the other thing that they can do is a core exchange,
Right.
where they can buy ours and send theirs in, and if we deem it good, we'll give them money back.
Okay.
and then we'll start this process again and
their-
build off their core. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it, start to finish on teardown. They're gonna get washed and bolted back up, and then I'm gonna blast them, and then I'm gonna machine them. And then from there, they'll get moved into the assembly room. From assembly, they'll get put into shipping, ready for someone to buy.
All right, you guys, so that's gonna end it for today's video. I certainly wasn't planning on learning as much as I did, but thanks to Aric, I was able to get my hands dirty and learn quite a bit. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
No problem.
Nonetheless, if you guys are interested in getting any of these MAP built motors for your car, feel free to click any of the links in the description down below, or you can send us your core and we'll work off of that. So nonetheless, guys, next week, we don't know what we're gonna be doing exactly, but I know I'm gonna learn a lot. So stay tuned for next week's video. Peace.